Jules Verne, Around the World in 80 Days, Chapter 11, The End of the Journey. The 20th of December. Phileas Fogg was free and he knew exactly what to do. He looked at Detective Fix and hit him, first with one hand, then with the other. Fix fell on the floor and stayed there. Passepartout was very happy. "Good," he told his master. Then he turned to Fix. "That's what happens to people who behave like you," he shouted at the confused detective. They left the police station and went towards the railway station immediately. They were in time for the train, but the train was late, and when they arrived in London, they looked up at the clock at Euston Station to see that it was 10 to 9. Phileas Fogg was 5 minutes late. He lost his bet. Phileas Fogg accepted this in his usual way, without showing any particular emotion. Alla, on the other hand, was very emotional. She continued to cry. She didn't know what to do. Passepartout was also worried for his master and his job. It was his master's choice to spend all his money on the bet, but he was such a good, honest person. He still couldn't stop thinking that it was his fault. After the journey, Mr. Fogg had £1,000 left. He also had £20,000 in Baron's bank, but he had to pay it to his 5 friends in the Reform Club. The next day, Passepartout followed the same routine except for one thing. When they heard the sound of Big Ben at 11:30 the next day, Phileas Fogg didn't go to the Reform Club. He stayed in his room. He thought about money and made plans. The house felt strange. It was like no one lived there. At about 7:30 that evening, Phileas Fogg asked Alla if he could come to her room to speak to her. "Madam," he began sadly, "I wanted to take you back to England with me because I thought I could offer you a good life here. Now I am a poor man, and I have nothing to offer you." It was the first time Alla saw Phileas Fogg looking really sad. "I know, Mr. Fogg, and I'm so sorry. You saved my life. You took time to rescue me, and you lost your bet because of me." "Madam, I couldn't let you die that terrible death, but now you are here, and you need a way to live. I have my house and my possessions, but what about you? I don't need anything. Maybe your friends could." "I have no friends," he said sadly. "Well, what about your relatives?" "I have no relatives. It is easier to live in poverty when there are 2 of us to share it," said Alla, taking his arm. "I want to be with you. I want to be your wife." Mr. Fogg came up to her. Alla saw that there was a small tear in his eye. "I love you," he said, "and I want to spend my life with you." "Oh," said Alla with a surprised cry. She was so happy that she put her hand to his heart. Passepartout came into the room and saw his master standing close to Alla. He understood immediately. "This is wonderful news," he said. "We all need some good news." "Yes," said Phileas Fogg. "If you agree, Alla, we can get married tomorrow, on Monday. Passepartout, do you know where the Reverend Wilson lives?" Passepartout ran to Reverend Wilson's house, but 5 minutes later, at 25 to 8, he was already back at the house. "Tomorrow morning," he said out of breath. "You can't get married." "Why?" asked Phileas Fogg. "Because today is Saturday and tomorrow is Sunday," he said excitedly. "Saturday? Impossible," replied Phileas Fogg. Yes, it is. Do you remember? We went around the world and we traveled east, and time changes as you go around the world, and we are now 24 hours ahead. It's Saturday. Hurry, Mr. Fogg. We only have 10 minutes. You can still win your bet." It was true. When you go around the world to the west, you lose one day. But when you go around the world to the east, you have one more day. They jumped into the first cab they saw to get to the Reform Club as quickly as possible. They arrived at 8044. Phileas Fogg's friends were waiting around the table impatiently. "Well, hello, my friends," he said when he stepped into the games room at 8:45. "I believe that I'm now a rich man," he said with a small smile. They all agreed. Here he was, 80 days later, and that was how Phileas Fogg won his bet. On Monday morning, Phileas Fogg married Alla. Late that morning, Passepartout came into his room. "Do you know, Mr. Fogg," he said, "that if you don't go across India, you can go around the world in just 78 days. "Maybe that's true," said Phileas Fogg. "But when we were going across India, I met Alla, who is now my lovely wife." And with these words they celebrated Phileas Fogg's good fortune.